Binary Bros Final Project Chat 501 demo. For the first use case, I'm going to be explaining use case number 1, which is a successful client login. For this example, I already have entered my username and my password. All that you need to do next is either hit login or enter key. So, with me hitting login, we will hit our first breakpoint. In this case, it's going to be login button click. First, we are going to take in our current user. This is going to update our current user property with the text box username that was entered. Next, we're going to update a string password with the text box password that was entered. For any debugging purposes, we will hit the console write line, which will then update our username and our password in the bottom console, which you can see for any purposes for debugging. Next, we're going to hit controller.stateInfo. This is going to be the method called to our main controller. We are passing in our state, our current user, and our password. So in this case, current user is the username. Once we enter, we're going to hit the first line of tokens, our tokens array, which is a string. So what this line does is it's going to split our string that was passed in with those, which was login, Luke, and Ferguson. Next, we're going to instantiate our 4 string variables, which are currently set to null, as they will be updated properly through the if-else ifs later down the line. Next, we're going to hit our state line, which is going to parse the state from our string from earlier. At this point, we're going to be looking through and seeing which state we are currently at. In this case, it's going to be login. So, once we hit this point, we're then going to update the username variable and our password variable with the contents of the token array. So, we'll then update the username with our username from tokens, and we're going to update our password from tokens. Then, we're going to update our user property with the username in the main controller so it knows which user is currently signed in. Then, we're going to hit our com_send_login method. So what this is it's going to send the login through our communication controller, which when we hit is going to format our username and our password for the user to be able to log in successfully through our server. So first line is obviously going to format what is going to be sent over to server, which is our login, state, our username, and then our password. Next, what we're going to do to help with server is to serialize the data with the JSON serializer. At this point, what this is just going to do is just going to serialize our content so that server can then use it to help with formalizing what data is needed to be sent back to us once we're through our login click. Then it just obviously will return the contents to be used in our previous method. Then we're going to hit our WebSocket send, which is the step to just send over what we just had formatted through our send. Once we have received what WebSocket has sent from our server side, we will then be going to state info again, as everything has now been successfully executed. Then we are just going to return send, which is just nothing at this point, as it's just for the later states is when this is going to be needed. As of right now, with login, it is not needed, so you'll just continue on. Now, we're going to be back to our login click, and if we continue on, we will then be hitting our display info on the login form. So this step right here with the if this is invoked as required, all this is just to see if the thread right now is a UI thread with our login form, since it is a window form. This step is just to see if it is not a UI thread, it will go in, invoke the new action, and set it to the delegate of our display info, just for main controller to be able to use. If it's already a UI thread, it will continue on and can proceed through the states like normal. So in this case, it is not a UI thread, so we are going to make sure it is. So now, once we go through, it'll see that it is. Now, the state that we're looking for is existing. The reason why it's existing is because when you first create a username and password, it'll obviously be a new user. This will say a text box that will say no account has been found or matching, so a new account has been created. This is just a pre-step that will happen. With that happening earlier, I already put my username and password in. So now I'll be considered as existing, as you can see by the state right here. Now, we're just going to keep looking through until we find a state existing, which is right here. Next, the first thing that will happen is a message box will appear. They'll say successful login, which has popped up right here. Next, what will be executed is the main window constructor, which I will not step through as it is going to take a lot of steps and a lot of unnecessary explanations as of right now, which is not going to provide any usefulness in this demonstration. Next, what will happen is then we are going to have the domain window pop up and then proceeding with having the login form be hidden. Then we're just going to update our properties, which are the text box username and text box password to be empty. And once the form is closed, this is what will appear. But once we execute this, we'll see that we'll hide it. We'll see that when this code is executed, like normal, we'll come back to display info, and thus our main window has opened, which concludes the first use case.